go through all the items that we have prepared for you. If you have any doubts, any questions, suggestion at any time, you can raise your hand like the Google Meets feature, and just unmute yourself, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions. For those that are joining us from the big Discord channel, the Google one, or is the first time like hearing about Genkit. Genkit is it's an open source framework. It's not tied to Firebase. It's just an open source framework built by the Firebase team that allows you to build generative AI apps. And it has an open ecosystem through a plugin system. It is available in TypeScript, Golang, and more to come. So yeah, with that being said, I think we are gonna start talking about what are the new features and the major changes in Jenkins 1. I think Pavel will take this one. I'm gonna share also for those that are new to Jenkins, the official Jenkins doc, so you can like have a look. And yeah, Pavel.
All right. Thanks. Hi. Yeah, I'm Pavel. I'm the technical lead for Firebase Genkit. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about our latest 1.0 release. And like you're probably kind of familiar with kind of all of the features that were launched in 1.0. So I'm not going to go into too many details, and we don't have too much time to go into detail. But I'll kind of briefly talk about some of the thinking behind the release. And I guess like the main theme for the 1.0 release, and as the kind of the version number suggests, it's all about stability and production readiness. So 1.0 release means that like we have all of the APIs are stable. We going forward, it's all going to be subject to semantic versioning, and we will be sticking to it. And you are ready. It's all ready for you to start building your apps in production. So and that is basically kind of the main theme of the release. We in the previous release 0.9, we've introduced a whole bunch of features. And we made a whole bunch of breaking changes. And kind of originally we thought that we're gonna take 0.9 release, let it cook for a little bit and call it 1.0. But a few features still snuck into 1.0. But yeah, so if we kind of take a look at our kind of the blog post with the announcement, it is all about talking about the high level APIs and talking about the stability and production readiness. So one of the kind of the production ready features for Genkit is production monitoring, and you can go to the Firebase console by adding a little bit of configuration in your code, just a couple of lines, you get this really nice production dashboard for all of your flows and all the Genkit code running in production, with monitoring just general success rate, latencies, but also all about the Gen AI aspects of monitoring, such as your tokens, input/output tokens, things that you kind of really care about, because like those actually cost money. So like you can drill into your flows, or and you can see how things are being used, and all of the tracing and additional troubleshooting details are available in production as well. Just like very similar to how you would see that in your local development environment. So I guess, speaking of kind of the API stability, we still felt like a few features of Genkit were not quite ready to be called stable. Like we still want to experiment with them and tweak them around. So somewhere here in the blog post, yeah, we mentioned that there's a beta APIs still under the hood there. So, but in order to use them, you have to make an explicit choice here. So you would import from Genkit beta instead of Genkit. And some of these, some of the features that we felt still need a little bit of more time and tweaking, like includes things like chat and session APIs, interrupts, and if you more like the defining custom formats API and the client library. So, but yeah, so they're still available, but yeah, for the beta features, our commitment is that expect more breaking changes. They're not going to be fully subject to semantic versioning. We might be making changes on minor releases for beta APIs. So yeah, while all the stable APIs, yeah, like breaking changes only on major releases, which we're not currently planning for a little while. So if you're using Genkit, you should feel safe using these APIs without worrying too many breaking changes. So yeah, and we've also introduced a whole bunch of interesting developer tooling features in this release, a bunch of improvements, and I guess like at this point I'm gonna hand off to Marissa to talk about our developer UI.
Great. Any questions for Pavel before I share my screen? You can always have them throughout. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa, and I'm the, we'll say, product owner for the developer UI. And I'm going to talk a little bit about 1.0, but I'm going to spend most of the time talking about looking forward. So 1.0, we were mainly focused on compatibility with the core framework, and so there wasn't a ton of changes, other than we did do a major revamp to evaluations. And I've talked about it before on Discord, but we added a few new features, so I feel comfortable just doing a short demo as far as things that are available today. So I'll just, especially if you're not familiar with it, and based, we want more people to use it, so I want to make sure I talk about it. So to give like a quick example of what it is, I like to think of it as before we made this change, evaluations was a little bit more of like a formal ML tool where you can run multiple sort of flows all at once, right? Or multiple test cases all at once. But you would always be associated with certain evaluation metrics. What we did with this redesign, in addition to adding the ability to create data sets in the dev UI, we made it optional to add metrics. So it's just a really good tool for running a bunch of flows or prompts at once. So you can see, you can simply like create a data set, call it like test cases, say like, this is optional, but you can say like, oh, this is a certain flow that I actually want to test against, which helps you with schema validation, which is something we added since launch. So I wanted to say like, we will validate that the examples in your data set match the schema for that flow. It's just a nice little type safety thing. So yeah, you can easily add an example. This is a simple flow that just takes in a customer name, and it's like a little coffee shop flow. So I'll demonstrate it here quickly. So simple greeting, you give a customer name, we'll say Pavel, and you run it, and it's like supposed to be a bot that runs a coffee shop. Like, good morning, Pavel, would you like to try our honey lavender latte today? So anyways, this is what it does, but I'll show you now a new tool that we have. So if you look at the trace, you now have the opportunity to add straight from a trace to a data set. This is really convenient. This is a very simple example, but sometimes the input schema can be really long. And so it's really hard to build out your data set just by typing it in like I did earlier. So this is, so you can see you can add to, these are the different data sets that I've already built. So this is test cases. And this is also a new feature where you can include the output as a reference if you want to do a type of evaluation that compares, like accuracy, for instance, then you want to have the reference there. I'm not going to do that in this case. I'm going to go ahead and add it. When I look at my data sets now, I have this new test cases data set, and I can go ahead and run an evaluation. Everything's pre-populated. I run it, and I view the results, and I can see output in bulk. So you can imagine if you build up these test cases or data sets, it's really powerful to be able to make changes to your flows and to be able to run them all at once. Okay, I don't have much time, so I want to keep going. That stuff is all available today. But we have a couple things behind feature flags and a couple things that are forthcoming that I wanted to demo. So I think I can demo them all in the model runner. Let's see, which one should I do first? Well, here's one that we just landed. Let's say I wanted to get some help. How do I calculate the fourth prime number? This is what I think about as in my sleep. And you can see, okay, it gives me some helpful, I guess, information. I don't know, it tells me what I would do. But if I run this again, I've turned on now code execution, which is a Gemini feature. Let's try this again. Wow. Now we support code execution. You can see the code and the result inline in the model runner. So that's really awesome. And you might have noticed, like, wait a minute, code execution, I've never seen that before. And I've never seen context cache. Like, what is this? Well, this is behind a feature flag, but we're working on supporting all custom config for models so that it isn't just the standard common config, but we actually show all of the config. There's just a few hiccups in showing sort of arbitrary JSON in a UI. So like we're still figuring out some of the layout kinks, but this is pretty close. Okay, one more feature to demo, which is similar to this in that, let's see, do you have to specify preferred code or do you have to, that's a good, I'm not sure. That's a good question. If anyone wants to respond. Yeah, Michael.
So the code execution tool in particular is Python only. Like, that's a Gemini feature where it can generate and execute Python code. And so it would be possible to build tools, for example, to execute JavaScript, although asterisk, like, be very careful anytime you execute untrusted code without very carefully sandboxing it. But the only Python is built into the model.
Yeah. Data sets, is there a good way to export them how do I not know I'm not actually sure if you can export data sets, but I know you can import them. This is kind of, you can import them from AI monitoring, which is the tool that Pavel showed at the beginning. So you can use production data in Genkit I'm not actually sure if you can. I know that there's like code somewhere for everything, right? Everything has a file somewhere in Genkit. So in theory, it's exportable. All right, so we're gonna do a quick other example. Can you write a blog post for me in Markdown? This is my way to make sure it gives me Markdown. So I just wanted to, this is what we've been doing so far, but we've added this new render as Markdown filter, and this is the first of, thanks Trudy for the clarification. But this is the first of, we hope, many rendering improvements. So just to highlight like where we're headed quickly before I hand over the mic, we really want to focus on quality of life improvements for the Dev UI. We recently had a summit where we talked about really big ideas and features, but we think we want to just like make sure the core experience is really top notch. And so we want to render things a little bit better. JSON is an example, but we have Markdown almost ready. Yeah, there's also just general like layout and improvements and other things that we think will improve the usability. So yeah, I think that's it. Iman, did you have something you want to say? And
yeah, just for the sake of recording, I'm not sure if the questions and answers will be captured in the recording. So if somebody asks a question, if you can read it out loud, and if somebody answers it, if you can read the answer out loud, that would be great.
That's a good idea. Okay, that's all I'm going to demo for today. I think, yeah, thanks so much. At the end of this session, we're going to post a link for feedback. We're really, like I said, we're trying to improve quality of life. So I would love to sit down with any of you and talk about how you're using the Dev UI and opportunities of pain points to improve, because that is our theme right now. So yeah, thank you so much. I believe Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna take over. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's Alex coming up.
So yeah, so first, I'm Alex. I'm the lead for Genkit Go. What I'm gonna present is not super exciting, but what I'll tell you is probably more exciting than what's on screen. So we haven't done a Go release in quite a while. Don't worry, Go is not abandoned, quite the opposite. We have been and are working on massive improvements across the board. We are working towards a beta release in about 2 months. On the way there, we are rapidly closing the gap on feature parity with JS, and the first step in that is releasing a 0.3 release in about 2 weeks. This release is going to have a lot of breaking changes, but good changes. Basically improvements in the developer experience across the board, like everything involving Genkit, some improvements in like feature parity, but mostly just kind of redesigning things to be more ergonomic and just more enjoyable to use. So a couple of like themes beyond code simplification and concept simplification, we have kind of redesigned the Genkit instance to handle kind of like the dev side a little bit better, but also decouple the prod side. So you will now be able to expose not just your flows, but any action via any server framework that you would like. And all of them should be just as simple, just a couple of lines, 3-4 lines at most, to expose all of your flows. Previously, we kind of forced you into doing it via the Genkit instance. You were forced to use the net HTTP server. No longer. That's the first one. You'll also be able to configure any context providers, including auth or anything else, via that server interface. You get more flexibility. Simple cases are still simple. We have third-party support, all good things. Next, we are going to also simplify how plugins are managed. So currently, it's not too hard, but it's a little bit verbose. We are going to allow providing plugins as parameters to the Genkit instance. The Genkit instance will manage the lifecycle, registering them, calling them appropriately. So you can just drop them in just as simply as in JS. Next, we are having a very large rewrite of how we do configuration for all of our primitives. That's your prompts, your prompt requests, your generate calls, everything. So currently, Go kind of suffers from namespace conflicts. So you can't have the same options with the same names for multiple things to do different things, different function signatures. We have refactored it so you can use the same option throughout. It's going to have the same behavior. It will be documented centrally, so you know exactly what it does. It will have the same behavior whether you pass it into a prompt request, a generate request, or a dot prompt, or anything else. It's a simplified interface, and it's great for the end user, but it's also great for us because we're able to better guarantee that the behavior is consistent and just overall trend towards higher stability. And of course, with all this, we're going to have a docs rewrite because we're well aware that they're very outdated and don't apply to the latest release. it's because things are changing rapidly, and we're trying to kind of batch all of the like huge breaking changes into this release, and then kind of work towards more plugin features and other things that are less drastic. So after this 0.3 release, we'll have more releases leading to beta, focusing on things like dev UI feature parity, first-party plugin feature parity, stuff like context cache and constraint generation, code execution, all things that you'd expect. But we're kind of getting the framework features out of the way first. Genkit will be very nice to use at that point, and then we will work on things, to make it kind of more powerful to use. In the meantime, if you are interested to see what is happening in on the Go side of things, the Genkit repo issues, if you look at the Go label, things are generally filed here. What is not filed currently is framework improvements, because we are kind of having constant discussions and bubbling up new things. But anything feature related or kind of core concepts will be filed here, so you can keep track and see when things are ready. And I think that's about it for Go. Who is next?
I think it's Pavel with Python.
Yep. Give me a second. Yeah. Yeah, and like you might have heard that we are working on Python, Genkit Python for Python as well, and it's been kind of one of the most requested languages, and it is currently in very active development. So we are aiming for kind of a preview release within the next couple of months. So we'll already have pretty good coverage in terms of the features. I can show you here like a quick example of the generate stream API. You can provide a prompt and you can stream. So all of this is on GitHub. So basically, like if you go in the Genkit repository in the Py folder, everything is there. So it is all developed out in the open. You're free to go check it out. Yeah, like this is kind of just a really quick update, and that this is happening, and we're getting really close to having like something that you can fully run and actually start playing with. So yeah, stay tuned. It is exciting times. Thanks.
Cool.
Wow, that's great. So many things that you guys have built for JavaScript, for Golang, and now Python. I share the Discord channel here. So if you are not there, please join the Genkit Discord channel. So if you have any questions, if you have any issues, you can jump in there, and then the team, Michael, Pavel, like any Google engineer, will be more than happy to help you. And also you can open GitHub issues in the GitHub link that is shared there. And if you want to contribute, everyone is welcome. Okay. So with that being said, we are gonna move on to samples, and I think Jeff and Michael, starting with Jeff, they are gonna start talking about some samples that they have built.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeff. So yeah, I wanted to show a few full stack examples to kind of show off what you can build with Genkit. And the first one that I worked on was kind of like a clone of Notebook LM. I wanted to show off basically how could you turn PDFs and convert that into a podcast format that feels really natural and easy to understand using Genkit. So let me just first show off what the actual app looks like, and then we can dive into quickly what it looks like with Genkit. Hold on, let me share window real quick. So yeah, so here's the UI. It looks kind of like Notebook LM. I've already created an L1 regularization notebook. It's based off of this academic paper that from Andrew Ng that I wanted to read, but I am not able to understand it. So I had Notebook LM simplify it for me, and this is what it sounds like.
I don't think it's sharing the audio, is it?
Yeah, you might need to share a tab specifically to share the audio.
Oh, interesting. Darn it. All right.
At the University of Hamburg. Masa, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. Excited to be here.
So let's tackle this curse of dimensionality. For our listeners who aren't steeped in machine learning, can you explain why having too many features in your data can actually hurt your model's performance?
Absolutely. Imagine trying to fit a line through a cloud of points in, say, 1,000 dimensions. It's a recipe for disaster with so many features, many of which might be irrelevant.
Yeah, much simpler, much easier for me. So yeah, that's basically what that looks like. And then let me just show real quick how I built it with Genkit. It's really quite simple. It's just a number of flows. One is to summarize each of the basic input sources using a AI generate method, and then you turn those summaries into discussion hooks that are interesting for a podcast, and then that turns into a script, and then I have a process that's basically using text-to-speech to turn that into final podcast format. Iman?
Yeah, how about you also show the configuration options? It's not just two people, right? You can configure.
Oh, yeah.
It more
Yeah.
advanced.
So, yeah, so this, yeah, I guess because it's a backend API, so you can not only, I have a basically preset configuration here, but you can also tweak this to be whatever speakers you want. You can have a moderator. You can change the style of the conversation. And yeah, lots of different configuration options. And it's actually meant to be a starting point. So you kind of want to configure your own system to kind of understand your notes. This is some way you can do it that's more flexible than the actual UI. And yeah, I'll share the repo here. So yeah, that's a Notebook LM example. I have one more example that I'll just quickly go over. This one is in the samples folder. This one is a customer service email responder. So the idea here is if you are like a small business and you handle lots of customer inquiries, some of those are just simple questions that's based off of your FAQ. So it will basically classify each inquiry based on the intent, augment it with some data from a SQLite database, and then it will, if it is just a simple answer from a FAQ, it will actually draft a response back. Otherwise, it will escalate to a human. And this is another example that you can dig into yourself, built with Genkit. And it's very easy to set up locally. All you need is one API key and then a bunch of copy and paste commands. You can play with it. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm looking for more real world use cases. So if anyone has ideas, feel free to send those over. I'm happy to build them out. I'll leave that back to Xavier.
All right. Yeah, so Jeff have shared the link of those samples there. So please check those out because they are really, really, really cool. And you can learn how to use Genkit. And as Jeff said, if you have any ideas for like for samples, or you're looking for yeah, like any piece of code, go to Discord and drop that request. Coming up, I think we have Michael.
Yep.
So was some cool stuff as well.
Oh, hang on. I was just trying to share my screen and it said something went wrong. 1 second. Trying again. There we go. All right. So, hey, I'm Michael Bly. I am an engineering lead for Firebase, and I spend probably more time than I should with Genkit because it's just a lot of fun. And one of the things that I have wanted for a while is with Gen AI, so much of the stuff is sort of hard to just visualize just looking at the code because since it's non-deterministic, since all these things happen, since there's lots of interactions, it's a little easier to understand it if you can see it. And so we built Genkit by example. And the point here is just to be able to demonstrate the features of Genkit in sort of a simple real world use case. So this is at examples.genkit.dev. You can go there right now. And you can sort of explore these. There's 6 examples right now. This will grow over time. But it just lets you sort of get an idea of the things that Genkit can do. So let's take structured output, for example. So this is a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet generator where it's got a pretty detailed schema of what the character can be. And so let's say the prompt is going to be a dwarf who likes to use a bow. And I hit generate character. And you can see that this is streaming in the data as it works, and it generates this character sheet matching the schema that I provided. And in Genkit, this is just a few lines of code. And you can essentially see all of the Genkit code that you need to write right here next to the example. I do want to show off a couple things that I'm particularly interested in that are from the Genkit 1.0 release. So one of those is interrupts. So the ability for Genkit to sort of interrupt its own execution to ask the user a question. So this is great for human in the loop scenarios. So you'll see that here my custom system message is that you're a trivia game host. So I can say something like, ask me 90s movie trivia. And you can see that it renders this multiple choice question. And this is a special kind of tool called an interrupt that essentially Genkit reaches an interrupt, it creates the arguments that it passes to the tool, but then it hands control back to the developer. So as the developer, I can take those arguments and I can do anything I want with them, which in this case is rendering a multiple choice screen. So what does he call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris? That is a Royale with cheese. And when I submit the response, that goes back to the model as a tool response, the same way that it would if it was calling a tool that executed automatically. And so this allows you to essentially build very custom workflows where, let's say that you need to, get approval from the user to spend over $20, or you need to do anything that requires an out-of-band action. Interrupts are the way to do that. And then action context. This felt like a small thing when we added it, but I think it actually really brings a lot of what the power of Genkit is together. So action context is something that lets you pass around just arbitrary context data that can be used anywhere in any tool, in any flow, in any sort of subpart of a flow that's going on. And so in this case, we are passing information about a user. So if I say, if I am not logged in, then I can say, who am I? And it says that I'm unauthenticated. But if I switch and now I'm a turtle, let's reset. Who am I? You are a turtle and your favorite foods are strawberries and crickets. So that's just, I inject a little bit of information about the user into the prompt. That's not really that interesting. But if I say any upcoming events with trivia, then there is an event that comes back. And the way that this works under the hood, if I look at the sort of raw details, is that it makes a request to the upcoming events tool. And this tool, here we go, will actually use the, oh, that's just the data, sorry. The tool will actually look at the data and only return things that the current user is authorized to see. And so this is how you can sort of provide context about the current user to the model, or to the, you're not providing it to the model is kind of the important thing. It's a side channel of data. So the model's prompt doesn't necessarily have to know everything that's in the context, but when the model calls a tool, the tool does know what's in the context. And so you have the ability to do things like make authenticated calls to your database, filter data based on the user, or set our sort of arbitrary other context that's useful for you. So anyway, like I said, there's 6 examples now. This is going to grow over time, and hopefully this is a great way to get familiar with the concepts of Genkit. Now, one more thing that I wanted to show is sort of a little mini launch here for this particular community meetup. So as you might know, .prompt is the executable prompt template format for Genkit. And what an executable prompt template format means is that it's a text file, but it contains not only sort of the template of the prompt, but also metadata that tells everything that you need to know to be able to execute the prompt. And I think that .prompt is a really great way to work with prompts, but it can be hard to sort of play around with it and get started. And so I built a little tool that I call .prompt Fiddle. And .prompt Fiddle, which is available at fiddle.genkit.dev, is a way for you to just sort of play around with prompts in a nice little, if you're familiar with JS Fiddle, it's very similar to that. And you can just sort of play around with prompts here. And not only can you play around with prompts, but there is a prompt that generates prompts. So let's try a recipe generator with dietary restrictions in mind. So this is going to generate a prompt for me. If I give it a moment. So you see that it generates a .prompt file that takes a dish name and dietary restrictions and then outputs a recipe. And it also went ahead and generated some example inputs for that. So you can see it rendered over here. And if I change this on the fly, let's say create a delicious recipe, not just a regular recipe, then I can hit run. And I can see that my recipe is generated right away. So this is just a great way to play around. But of course, it's not just playing around. I also might want to share this. So I can hit publish, and you actually can't see the URL bar on my screen for some reason. But when you hit publish, that stores this in the cloud and generates a unique URL that you can then share with other people. And so you can, create these prompts and share them. Here, I will actually jump over here and share this with everybody. This is the prompt that I just made here. And you can give them titles. So this is, delicious food generator. Save that. And if you go to this URL, you're not going to be able to edit it because it's my fiddle, but you will be able to fork it and work with it on your own. So this is just a fun little tool that lets you play around with prompts. You can also do partials. So you can add partials to your prompt and then include them. So I could say, let's say I had how to cook, and I added some make it really tasty. Then I can go back here, how to cook, and it will add that in. So this is a great way to play around with .prompt. It's a great way to sort of share prompts that you might have created. And yeah, I think that's it for me. So the 2 URLs that you should take a look at are examples.genkit.dev and fiddle.genkit.dev. And that's it for me.
Wow, thank you. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Jeff, for the samples and for this new tool. I think that will help us a lot, and especially with .prompt, which is one of my favorite features as well. I use it a lot. Okay, so that's it in terms of things that we wanted to show you today. So it's time for you to raise your hand and see in terms of like, let's start with samples. If any of you have built anything with Genkit that you want to share with us and things like that. I know that. Okay, Sean, go ahead.
All right, you guys want to see code, or can I just explain it?
Up to you.
Okay, I just don't know if I'll be able to present it in a nice way. So trying to make like a multimodal memory search feature, basically. And there's a Firestore listener. When a memory is created, depending on if it's text, video, audio, it'll embed it. Currently, that all works. The Firestore retriever is also using the same multimodal thing when you type in a query, except it doesn't find anything. So I'm used to, like in a PG vector situation, being able to like add a distance or like like something to make it a little bit more either generous with what it's looking for, or restrictive, and I can't do that yet. So that's basically what I'm trying to work on, but just getting stuck with the Firestore retriever. But the fact that the multimodal embedding stuff works is really cool.
That's a good example. Do you have the is your code open source, or is it on GitHub, or?
I was just in the process of making it into one little repo. It's like a proof of concept on top of a proof of concept for my work. So I'm packaging it up to make it easy for you guys to look at. That's great.
Yeah. When you think you can share that, drop that link in the Discord. So yeah.
Okay. I also tried to make an on-call Genkit version of the school tool for like attendance, grades, things like that. The example uses a command line, so it's all in memory, so it doesn't need to use a session store of any kind. When the session store works fine when you use just the simple chat thing, but when you start to do multi-agent flows, it overwrites the main thread every time you make a request. So that's something I'll also probably package up also, so you can see that. But yeah, I love Genkit. Everything's so cool. The end-to-endness about it is amazing. That's it for me. So whoever wants to go next can go.
That's great. Thank you, Shen, for sharing. Iman?
Yeah, cool. This is really awesome. First of all, like all of the core Genkit members are on Discord. So anytime you have a question or like want to like ask something or present something, reach out to us there. And second, I love your sample. If you ever want to share it with the community and we can work on it together, like it's a good idea to teach people about like how to build this stuff with Genkit.
We have a question from Oscar. Does the Genkit team have plans to support WebSockets multimodal live Gemini API?
I can talk to that a little. So we do get this request pretty regularly. We don't have any concrete plans for multimodal live. I think it's really cool. I also think it's really early, and we have a lot of work to do just supporting sort of non-live LLM capabilities. So while it's something I think we're going to keep an eye on, I would not expect us to do the sort of like multimodal live streaming in the super near future.
Thanks, Michael. Connor, you have your rise.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm curious if you guys have any tips on where to start with evaluators. It's kind of seems like evaluators are like, you know, people like make cool apps, and then you're like, how do I make a cool evaluator? And then they're like, oh no. and like, you know, docs are spare and like, not necessarily yours, maybe I haven't checked in on it in a couple months. And so it kind of seems like a sort of area where it's like, if you know, you know, but yeah, I'm curious what you guys would suggest.
Who wants to jump in?
Sam or Marissa or Cleo?
Yeah, I can answer that, and then maybe Cleo can add on. Hey, I'm Sam. I work on evals mostly, so I think I should be able to answer your question. Just to reiterate, your question is the question, how do we get started on evaluators, Connor? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, just maybe to make it more concrete, I can build a cool feature with Genkit. I can integrate it in my app, and then I can get to the point where I'm tweaking things and the output is improving, but it seems like there's a little bit of a wall there where I should start using evaluators, but I don't. The path to do it, the examples, like the process, the sort of things that I should look at that are a good example are like sort of unclear.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like how do I start and like kind of jump into actually using evaluators and iterating on it instead of kind of like YOLOing all of my prompts and features?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there are multiple layers to this question. Some of the decisions that you have to make when picking an evaluator would depend on the use case. So the type of problem that you're trying to solve, like for example, if it's a RAG use case, you would want to use some RAG metrics like faithfulness and so on. But if it's like a creative flow or something, you might want to create your own criteria, like, you know, like if the flow speaks in pirate speak or not, or like you can create your own criteria that you would want to like evaluate it on. Genkit makes it a little easy because you can define your own evaluators. You can set the logic that you would want to use to measure whether you think the response from the model or the flow is good. Of course, it comes with a set of prepackaged evaluators, but we've been hearing feedback from users who are using evaluators that the current set that we have in the Genkit evaluators plugin is more focused towards RAG, which is not what everyone's working on, so it might not fit everyone's use case, and I don't think it's realistic to ask people to shim their use case into the 3 metrics that we provide in Genkit evaluators. So yeah, so that's one part of it. So it depends on like what kind of problem that the flow or the action is trying to solve. I know that's not really helpful, but we are in the process of adding more metrics that would be much more generic that you can use for evaluators. The second part is most of the evaluators that we have in Genkit evals, they come from an open source plugin called Ragas. So they have a wider set of a collection of metrics, out of which we handpicked a few for the Genkit eval plugins. We plan on expanding on those, and if you go to our docs, there should be a reference to Ragas as well, where you will have they have nice little explanations on what each metric is and what you would want to use it for. So that might help you decide better in selecting the right metric for your use case, and then you can kind of replicate that same behavior on Genkit side using custom metrics. I think I'll let Cleo or Pavel to go ahead next.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just to add to that, I think one of the things is we've been sort of investigating evaluations and talking with customers and talking with internal teams here at Google is that every use case is like a little bit different. And so another thing that can be kind of a struggle with evaluations is establishing what is that baseline, what is good? Because even if you're using the same, you're using some recommended evaluators that you read on some blog or that worked really well for one team, it won't necessarily work really well for your use case. And so whatever you choose, take it as establishing a baseline as you're doing those manual evaluations. So you're going to be looking at this data. You're going to be saying like, oh, I think this is good. I think this is not good. Having those metrics that sort of go alongside, as long as you're able to sort of establish that baseline, then you can start to use them relative to what you have. And so that's one recommendation that I would make, is that as you start to actually create data sets, as you start to run through these sets of examples, put some metrics on there, look with your eyes, and start to get a sense of like, oh, is 0.4 good for me? Maybe it is. And I think that's something that can kind of help you bridge that gap between where you are now and relying on these metrics in the future.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing there quickly, is that we've been trying to like make evaluation in Genkit generally much more approachable. Then, because like once you get into evaluators, like they can seem a little kind of advanced, and and some people kind of just don't have time to figure them all out. So we've been trying to really design, and as Marissa was demoing earlier, right, to start evaluations, like to use evaluations and data sets, you actually don't need to define metrics and figure out what, like, specific automatic metrics that are calculated on your data set. You can just like define a data set, and then you just go and run an evaluation without any metrics, and it just like, it's literally like a bulk run of your flow, and then you just can go and like eyeball, like just look at the results and see, hey, like are they good or not, instead of maybe like manually calling a REST API and comparing. It's just much more convenient to just create a data set and just do this bulk run and see, hey, like, is this looking good? This is like super easy to start. You don't need to like know anything, and and then like and then slowly get into like how can I add like maybe an automatic judge on those results that can give me a maybe a quantitative metric, saying, hey, like, that I can then say, hey, like, is this good or bad? Does this match the reference that I need? Like, and is this actually a good output or not? So it is kind of we're trying to make more experiences that you pick your own adventure and you go as advanced as you need to go, but getting into it, we're trying to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, that seems like probably more in line with the problem space I'm in, where like it seems like most of the evaluator systems out there and libraries and whatnot are kind of implicitly built around very complicated systems, or people trying to build like extremely generalized LLM systems like chat boxes and whatnot. And I am in this situation where like it does one tiny thing. I need a very specific structured JSON out, and I have examples of like bad JSON out and good JSON out. And it's like, it seems like I need like level 1 out of 100 complexity that like these evaluator examples have, and that like it seems a little odd where to go if you just want something quite simple. So yeah, anyway, that was helpful.
Tomas, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, well, first, let me start with a big thank you to the team. This has been a fantastic meeting. Fantastic job, everybody. So kudos to everybody who worked on these very cool features, samples, and all of that. I was talking with Jorge, another Firebase GDE, and Xavi, we really need to do something like this in Spanish. I don't know when, I don't know how or which Googlers can be part of this, but there's a huge Firebase community, Spanish-speaking community, would love to be part of that and help organize something like that. But Spain, Latin America, we need this. So yeah, just want to say that.
That is also true. All right, we are on time, Iman. So go.
Yeah, I can do the closing comments. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Genkit has been a wild ride for us. It started as a side project, or like some ambitions some of the people had in Firebase about supporting AI in Firebase better, and we're not one of those heavily staffed teams at Google. We're actually like a lot of the people helping Genkit are working on 20%. But 20%, if you've heard, is something at Google where people have can spend 20% of their time on the projects they like. And a lot of people are from around Google, from around Firebase, join to help Genkit. We really rely on community and you developers for feedback, for help. We have people who are helping us on the Go side, on the JavaScript side, and on the Python side. So we'd love for any sort of contribution, examples, samples, code contributions, bug reports. We're happy to get those and get your support. We're also very eager to hear like stories about your experience with Genkit, the friction you had, the challenges you had, areas where we could invest and improve. So Marissa, she's also the UX lead for the whole project, and she loves doing a lot of research and understanding what are the friction points. She will send out a form for sign up in our Discord channel. If you can sign up and give us, and she could ask questions. It's more of a research question, so not about like solving problems or support or things like that. We can do that in the Discord channel, but more of asking for your experience, where we could improve, where was the friction, where in the developer experience you feel we have left things out. We would love you to give feedback. Marissa will shortly after the meeting post a link in our Discord channel, in Genkit's Discord channel. So please sign up. Please give us half an hour of your time. Give us candid feedback. Tell us about the areas we could improve. Tell us about the things you enjoyed, the things you didn't enjoy, and it would be a tremendous help to us to like plan accordingly and build the features that you like, and it would help you build your apps. So, and thank you to every one of you for joining. Hopefully this is not the last, it's the first, but it will continue in the coming months and quarters. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
First of many.
Thank you.
Have a great day and night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you very much.